Daniel Harris adjusted his tie in the rearview mirror. The scar on his left temple caught the morning light. 10 years of rescue operations had left marks everywhere: his shoulder, his ribs, the backs of his hands. He'd pulled 47 people out of collapsed buildings, hostage situations, and chemical fires. Now he was going to an office interview. His daughter Chloe was 8 years old and still flinched when he put on his tactical gear. She needed a father who came home every night, not a hero who might not come home at all. He needed this consultant job at Vanguard Global. He needed boring. Then the sky exploded 3 blocks ahead. Black smoke poured from the 15th floor of the Vanguard Global Research Tower. People ran away from the building. Daniel's hands were already reaching for the door handle. He knew he should drive past. He knew Chloe was waiting for him to call after the interview. But his eyes had already found the flaw in the perimeter fence. The service vent on the east wall, the path to the chaos that no one else could see. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel, and it proves that powerful stories resonate everywhere. The heat hit Daniel's face before he was halfway across the street. The Vanguard building was new, all glass and steel, the kind of structure that costs more than most small towns. The 15th floor looked like someone had cracked it open from the inside. Flames licked out of shattered windows. The fire alarm screamed. A crowd had formed at the security perimeter. 2 guards stood at the main gate, radios pressed to their ears. One of them was shouting into his phone about evacuation protocols. Neither of them looked like they were planning to go inside. Daniel scanned the building. The main entrance had already locked down. He could see the steel shutters descending behind the glass doors. Standard fail-secure protocol. When the fire alarm triggered, the building would seal itself to contain the damage. Smart for property protection. Terrible for anyone still inside. He counted the windows. 15 floors. The explosion had come from the east side, probably a lab or testing facility based on the chemical smell and the smoke. The fire suppression system should have activated by now. Foam. See O2 something. But the flames were still spreading. System failure. Daniel moved along the fence line. The guards weren't watching the perimeter anymore. Everyone's eyes were on the fire. He found what he was looking for near the loading dock, a section where the fence joined the building wall. The magnetic lock was blinking red. It should have been green. The emergency power hadn't kicked in properly. He grabbed the fence and pulled. The gate swung open 6 inches. Enough. Daniel slipped through and ran for the service vent he'd spotted from the street. It was a maintenance access point, the kind that HVAC technicians used. The cover was held by 4 bolts. He pulled a multi-tool from his pocket. He'd carried one every day for 15 years and attacked the bolts. 30 seconds. The cover came free. The vent was barely wide enough for his shoulders. Daniel pushed his jacket through first, then pulled himself in. The metal was already hot to the touch. He could hear the fire above him, a living thing, breathing and growing. The vent shaft went up at a 45-degree angle. Daniel braced his boots against one wall and his back against the other, then started climbing. His thighs burned. This was a technique he'd learned in a collapsed parking garage in Athens. When the stairs are gone, you use the walls. 6 years ago, the parking garage had been full of smoke too. He'd found 3 people alive in the stairwell. The shaft opened into a 3rd-floor mechanical room. Daniel pushed through the vent cover and dropped to the floor. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. The air was thick but breathable. He had maybe 5 minutes before the smoke got bad. He tried the door. Locked. The security system had sealed every access point. Daniel examined the lock. Electronic. Card reader. Backup mechanical cylinder. The electronic system was dead. No power. The mechanical lock was still engaged. He looked around the mechanical room. Compressed air tanks, electrical panels, a tool cabinet. He grabbed a pry bar from the cabinet and wedged it into the door frame. The lock was strong, but the frame was just steel set in drywall. 3 hard pulls and the frame splintered. The door swung open. The hallway beyond was full of smoke. Daniel pulled his shirt over his mouth and nose. Not perfect, but it would help. He moved low, where the air was clearer. The smoke was coming from above and spreading down. That meant the fire was still on the 15th floor. He had to go up. He found the emergency stairwell. The door was closed but unsealed. The fire hadn't reached this section yet. Daniel pushed through and started climbing. His lungs were already working hard. The air in the stairwell was better, pulled up by the heat differential. He took the stairs two at a time. 5th floor, 7th floor, 10th floor. The temperature was rising. His shirt was soaked with sweat. The scars on his shoulder were aching, the old injuries complaining about the heat and stress. He'd broken that shoulder in Morocco. A wall had come down on him while he was pulling an engineer out of a factory fire. The shoulder had healed. The engineer had lived. Worth it. 13th floor. The smoke was getting thick. Daniel could hear the fire now, a roar that came from everywhere at once. His eyes were watering. He needed to move faster. 14th floor. The stairwell door was hot to the touch. He shouldn't open it. Every instinct said the fire was just beyond that door. But the 15th floor was where the explosion had happened. If anyone was still alive, they were up there. 15th floor. The door was warm but not burning. Daniel cracked it open. Smoke poured through the gap. He could see orange light dancing in the hallway. The fire was close but not immediate. He pushed through. The hallway was a nightmare. The ceiling tiles had fallen, exposing sparking wires and twisted metal. The walls were blackened. Doors hung open, blown out by the explosion. Daniel moved down the hall, checking each room. Empty office. Empty lab. Conference room with the windows blown out. Then he heard it, a sound underneath the roar of the fire. Someone coughing. Daniel ran toward the sound. The last door on the left was partially blocked by a fallen ceiling panel. He grabbed the panel and hauled it aside. The room beyond was a testing lab, full of equipment that had been thrown against the walls. In the center of the room, a woman in a red dress lay on the floor next to a piece of machinery that was still smoking. She was conscious, but barely. Her eyes were unfocused. There was blood on her forehead. Daniel knelt beside her and checked her pulse. Rapid but steady. Possible concussion. Smoke inhalation. He needed to get her out now. "Can you hear me?" Daniel said. The woman's eyes found his face. She tried to speak, but only coughed. "Don't talk. I'm getting you out." Daniel slid his arms under her shoulders and knees and lifted. She was light, maybe 120 pounds. He'd carried heavier loads through worse conditions, but his shoulders screamed anyway. Old injuries never really healed. He turned toward the door and stopped. The hallway was gone. While he'd been in the lab, the fire had spread. The path he'd used to get here was now a wall of flame. Daniel's mind shifted into mode that had kept him alive for a decade. He scanned the room. 2 windows, both intact. 15 floors up. No fire escape. The windows were the new kind, sealed units rated for energy efficiency. They wouldn't open. He looked at the equipment scattered around the lab. There, a compressed gas cylinder knocked on its side. Nitrogen, based on the label. He carried the woman to the far corner of the room, set her down as gently as he could, and ran back for the cylinder. The cylinder was heavy, maybe 40 pounds. Daniel picked it up and aimed it at the window. This was either going to work or kill them both. He opened the valve all the way and through the cylinder. It hit the window and bounced off. The glass cracked but held. Daniel grabbed a chair and threw it. The chair hit the cracked glass and punched through. Air rushed in, feeding the fire behind him. The flames roared louder. He had seconds. He ran back to the woman, lifted her again, and carried her to the window. The glass was gone, but the frame was still there, a jagged opening barely wide enough for a person. Daniel could feel the heat of the fire on his back now. The whole room was about to go. He looked out the window. 15 floors straight down. No ledge. No fire escape. But there was a decorative facade running along the outside of the building. A metal grid that someone had added for aesthetics. It was maybe 8 inches deep, not enough to stand on, but maybe enough to climb down. Daniel pushed the woman through the window and onto the narrow facade. She was barely conscious. He held her with one hand and climbed out with her, his feet finding purchase on the thin metal. The facade groaned under their combined weight. He looked down. Emergency vehicles were pulling up to the building. He could see firefighters pointing up at him, but they were 15 floors below. Even if they set up a ladder, it wouldn't reach in time. Daniel looked to the side. The explosion had damaged this part of the building's exterior. A section of the facade had peeled away, revealing the structural beams underneath. The beams ran vertically down the side of the building. If he could reach them, he could climb down. He moved along the facade, holding the woman against his chest with one arm and gripping the metal grid with the other. His fingers were slipping. The metal was hot from the fire. 6 feet to the exposed beams. 4 feet. 2 feet. His hand found the beam. He pulled them both over. The beam was solid, steel, cool compared to everything else. Daniel wrapped his legs around it and started descending, holding the woman with both arms now, using his legs to control the descent. 10th floor, 8th floor, 5th floor. His muscles were on fire. The woman was dead weight in his arms. He could hear shouting from below, but didn't look down. Looking down was how you fell. 3rd floor. He could see the firefighters now, right below him, holding a net. They were shouting for him to drop her. Daniel looked at the distance. 20 feet. She'd survived the fall into the net. Probably. He held her out and let go. She fell and hit the net. The firefighters collapsed around her, cushioning the impact. They were already pulling her out, checking her vitals. Daniel slid down the last 20 feet and dropped to the ground. His legs buckled. A firefighter grabbed his arm to steady him. "Sir, are you injured?" "Sir." Daniel shook his head. His throat was raw from the smoke. His hands were burned from the hot metal. His shoulder felt like someone had driven a spike through it. But he was alive. The woman, Daniel managed to say, "Is she?" "Paramedics have her. She's breathing. You saved her life." Daniel looked at the building. The fire was still burning on the 15th floor, but the emergency crews had it contained now. The woman was being loaded into an ambulance. She'd live. He checked his watch. 9:47 a.m. His interview was at 10 o'clock. "I have to go," Daniel said. The firefighter stared at him. "Sir, you need medical attention." "I'm fine." "You just climbed down 15 floors with a woman in your arms." "You're not fine." "I've had worse days." Before the firefighter could argue, Daniel walked away. He needed to get to his car. He needed to clean up. He needed to make that interview. Chloe needed him to make that interview. He looked back once. The woman in the red dress was in the ambulance now, an oxygen mask on her face. She'd be okay. That was enough. Daniel got his car and drove. The bathroom at the gas station was small and dirty, and smelled like chemicals that were probably meant to cover up worse smells. Daniel stood at the sink and looked at himself in the mirror. His face was black with soot. His shirt was torn. His hands were blistered from the hot metal beam. There was blood on his collar. Not his blood. Hers. He ran the water and started washing. The soot came off in black streams. His face emerged from underneath, pale and drawn. The scar on his temple stood out. He scrubbed his hands. The blisters stung when the water hit them. He didn't care. His interview shirt was in the back seat, still in the dry cleaning bag. He'd picked it up yesterday. White, pressed professional. He pulled off his ruined shirt and put on the clean one. His shoulder protested when he lifted his arms. He ignored it. The tie came next. His hands were shaking. It took 3 tries to get the knot right. The jacket covered the worst of it. If he kept his hands in his pockets, no one would see the blisters. If he stood straight, no one would see him favoring his shoulder. He looked like a man going to an interview. He didn't look like a man who just climbed down the side of a burning building. Daniel got back in the car and checked the address. Vanguard Global Corporate Headquarters, downtown, the same building. He'd just broken into the same building he was supposed to interview at, the building that was currently on fire. He sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. He could drive home. He could tell Chloe that the interview was canceled because of the fire. She'd understand. She'd be relieved he was safe. They'd find another job, another company. There were other options, but there weren't. Daniel had been looking for 6 months. Vanguard Global was the only company that wanted to interview him. Everyone else saw his resume and saw a man who specialized in violence and chaos. Nobody wanted to hire that. Vanguard Global had been different. They wanted someone who understood security from the inside out, someone who'd seen what happened when systems failed. He'd just shown them exactly that. Daniel started the car and drove to the interview. The Vanguard Global corporate headquarters was 3 blocks from the research tower. Different building, same company. The lobby was all marble and glass. A woman at the reception desk looked up when he entered. "I have a 10 a.m. interview," Daniel said. "Daniel Harris." The woman checked her computer. "Mr. Harris." "Yes, but I'm afraid there's been an incident at our research facility. We're not sure if the interviews are still—" "I know about the incident. I was told to come anyway." That was a lie. No one had told him anything. But the woman nodded and picked up her phone. She spoke quietly for a moment, then hung up. "Someone will be with you shortly. You can wait over there." Daniel sat in the waiting area. There were 3 other people, all dressed in expensive suits. They looked like consultants. They looked like people who'd never climbed down the side of a building in their lives. One of them was reading something on a tablet. Another was on his phone. The third was staring at the ceiling like he was solving complex equations in his head. Daniel looked at his hands. The blisters were already forming, red and angry. He put his hands in his pockets. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. The woman at the desk kept glancing at her computer screen. Her phone rang twice. She had quiet conversations both times, her voice too low to hear. At 10:35, a man in a gray suit came down the stairs. He looked at the waiting area and frowned. "Gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. As you may have heard, we've had an emergency at our research facility. We're going to need to reschedule today's interviews. My assistant will contact you with new times." The other 3 candidates stood up and started gathering their things. They looked annoyed but not surprised. This was the kind of thing that happened in business. Delays, rescheduling, professional inconvenience. Daniel didn't move. The man in the gray suit looked at him. "Sir, we'll be rescheduling. I'd like to interview today if possible. I'm afraid that's not. I understand there was an incident, but I'm already here. If there's anyone available, even for 15 minutes, I'd appreciate the opportunity." The man studied him. His eyes went to Daniel's face, taking the exhaustion and the soot that Daniel hadn't quite washed off from behind his ears. His expression shifted slightly. Recognition? Suspicion? Daniel couldn't tell. "What did you say your name was?" "Daniel Harris." The man pulled out his phone and sent a text. 30 seconds later, the phone buzzed. The man read the message and his eyebrows went up. He looked at Daniel again, really looked at him this time. "Come with me, Mr. Harris." Daniel followed him up the stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway was quiet. Most of the offices were empty. Everyone was probably dealing with a fire. The man led Daniel to a conference room at the end of the hall. "Wait here." The man left. Daniel sat down at the conference table. The room had windows that looked out over the city. He could see smoke still rising from the research tower 3 blocks away. Fire trucks surrounded the building. The top floors were blackened. He wondered if the woman in the red dress was okay. The paramedics had said she was breathing. That was good. Breathing meant alive. But alive didn't mean uninjured. She'd been unconscious when he found her. The head wound had looked bad. Concussion at minimum. Maybe worse. Daniel pulled out his phone and called Chloe's school. The secretary answered. "Hi, this is Daniel Harris. I just wanted to let Chloe know that I'm okay." "I'm sorry, Mr. Harris. Is there a reason she'd think you weren't okay?" "There was a fire downtown. I was near it. She might see it on the news and worry." Oh dear. "Yes, I'll make sure to tell her if she asks." "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. I just don't want her to worry." "Of course. I'll let her know." Daniel hung up. His hands were shaking again. He put the phone away and focused on breathing. In and out. Steady. He'd done this before. The shaking always came after. Adrenaline leaving the system. Perfectly normal physiological response. It would pass. The door opened. Daniel stood up, and then stopped. The woman in the red dress walked into the room. She looked different now. The blood was gone. Her hair was pulled back. She was wearing a gray suit instead of the dress. But it was her. Same face. Same sharp eyes that had looked up at him from the floor of the burning lab. She was carrying a tablet. She sat down across from him and set the tablet on the table. Mr. Harris, I'm Sharon Vanguard. Daniel's mind went blank for a second. Vanguard, as in Vanguard Global, as in the CEO. The woman he'd pulled out of the fire was the CEO of the company. Yes, I'm Daniel Harris. Are you okay? Sharon smiled slightly. I have a mild concussion and some smoke inhalation. The doctors wanted me to stay at the hospital. I declined. You're wondering why I'm here instead of recovering. Yes, because you're here. And I want to meet the man who broke into our research facility and saved my life. She tapped the tablet. The screen lit up. It showed security camera footage. Black and white. Timestamp in the corner, 9:23 a.m. The feed showed the perimeter fence. A man approached the fence, examined the gate, and slipped through. The man was Daniel. Sharon swiped to the next video. The service vent. Daniel removing the bolts and climbing inside. Another swipe. The third floor mechanical room. Daniel prying open the door. Another swipe. The stairwell. Daniel climbing. The whole sequence, captured from multiple angles. We have cameras everywhere, Sharon said. It's a security company. We're very thorough, or we thought we were. She paused the video on an image of Daniel carrying her out of the lab. Do you know what that building is, Mr. Harris? A research facility. A testing facility for security systems. The building you broke into is designed to be unbreachable. We test physical security there. Locks, barriers, sensors, suppression systems. Everything. That building has $100 million worth of security technology protecting it. She looked at him. You got through it in 11 minutes. Daniel didn't know what to say. He'd just reacted. He hadn't thought about security systems. He'd thought about a person who needed help. The explosion, he said. What happened? Sharon's expression darkened. A test gone wrong. We were evaluating a new fire suppression system. Halon replacement, faster activation, better coverage. Something malfunctioned during the test. The explosion was real. The fire was real. I was supervising the test myself. Stupid in retrospect. You couldn't have known. I should have. That's my job. To know when systems will fail. She looked at the tablet again. The building locked down like it was supposed to. All the protocols activated. Magnetic locks, fire doors, emergency barriers. Everything that was designed to contain the fire and protect the people outside. Everything except what was designed to protect the people inside. The suppression system failed. The alarms failed. I was trapped in a burning room in a building that was locked down so tightly that even our own security team couldn't get to me in time. But I did. Yes, you did. Sharon swiped through more footage. The fence lock that didn't engage properly. You spotted it immediately. The service vent that wasn't on the main security grid. The mechanical room door with the weak frame. The stairwell that wasn't monitoring heat signatures. You found every flaw in our system. You exploited every weakness. You did in 11 minutes what our own red team has been trying to do for 6 months. Daniel realized what she was saying. The interview was supposed to be for a safety consultant position, basic advisory role, review protocols, suggest improvements, write reports. Sharon closed the tablet. I'm offering you a different position. VP of our red team division. Your job would be to do exactly what you did this morning. Find the flaws in our security systems. Break through our defenses. Show us where we're vulnerable before our clients' enemies do. I'm not a hacker. I don't know coding or... You're a physical penetration specialist. Most security breaches aren't digital. They're physical. Someone tailgates through a door. Someone climbs through a vent. Someone finds a one lock that didn't engage properly. You have a decade of experience finding ways into places that no one else can reach. That's exactly what we need. Daniel thought about it. A VP position, leading a team, finding flaws, making systems better, keeping people safe, all without climbing down burning buildings with people in his arms. What about Chloe? He said. Sharon looked confused. Who's Chloe? My daughter. She's 8. I'm a single father. The consultant role was flexible hours, mostly remote work. A VP position would have whatever hours you needed to have. You'd set your own schedule. Test our facilities when it works for you. We need your brain, Mr. Harris, not your entire life. She paused. I read your file. Former military, extraction specialist, 27 successful rescue operations in hostile territory. Retired 3 years ago. You've been working private security since then, but nothing that used your real skills. You've been looking for something stable, something that won't get you killed, something that will let you be there for your daughter. Yes, this is that job. You'll be breaking security systems, not running into burning buildings. You'll be finding problems before they kill people, not after, and you'll be teaching other people how to do the same thing. That's how you keep Chloe's father alive. Daniel looked at his hands. The blisters were getting worse. In a few hours, they'd need to be treated properly. But right now, they just reminded him of why he'd stopped doing rescue work. Because eventually, the injuries accumulated. Eventually, you didn't heal as fast. Eventually, you didn't come home. When would I start? He asked. Sharon smiled. You already did. That footage of you breaking into the building? That's going to be our training video for the next 6 months. Everyone in security is going to study what you did this morning and figure out how to prevent it. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My father said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show him that these tales matter. Please subscribe to my channel, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now, let's continue. Sharon stood and walked to the window. The smoke from the research tower was thinning. The fire was under control now. She looked out at it for a long moment, then turned back to Daniel. Let me tell you what really happened this morning, she said. The suppression test wasn't supposed to have anyone in the building. I went in personally because the system kept showing anomalies during the test runs. Small things, timing delays, pressure inconsistencies. Nothing that should have caused a catastrophic failure. But I want to see it firsthand. And someone had sabotaged it. Not completely. Just enough to make it fail at the worst possible moment. We don't know who yet, but we will. She sat back down. Vanguard Global has enemies, Mr. Harris. We protect some of the most valuable assets in the world. Data centers, research facilities, government installations. When we find a flaw in someone's security, when we expose a vulnerability, we make enemies. People who prefer those vulnerabilities stayed hidden. Daniel understood. You think someone wanted that test to fail? I think someone wanted me in that building when it failed. The anomalies I saw, they were bait, designed to get me to supervise the test personally. And it worked. Sharon's voice was cold. What they didn't account for was you. I was just in the right place at the right time. I know, but here's what I need you to understand. This wasn't random. This was an attack. And it won't be the last one. Whoever did this learned that our $100 million security system can be defeated. They learned it because they watched you do it this morning. Every camera angle, every decision you made, they have all of it. You think they'll try again. I think they'll try smarter next time, which is why I need you to be smarter too. I need you to think like someone who wants to hurt us. I need you to find every way into our buildings, our systems, our protocols. And I need you to do it before they do. Daniel thought about Chloe, about the life he'd promised her. Stability, safety, a father who came home every night. This didn't sound stable. This sounded like a different kind of war. I spent 10 years fighting, he said quietly. I'm tired. I know. I read the psych evaluation in your file. PTSD managed, anxiety controlled. You left military extraction work because it was destroying you. Because every person you saved meant another nightmare, another mission, another chance to die. Sharon leaned forward. But you ran into that building anyway this morning. Even knowing what it would cost you. Even knowing your daughter was waiting for you to call. You ran, and because it's who you are, you're a protector. That doesn't go away just because you change jobs. She was right. Daniel had known at the moment he saw the smoke. Known that he'd go in. Known that he couldn't stop himself. The instinct was too deep. The difference, Sharon continued, is that this time you're not alone. You'll have a team, resources, authority. You'll be finding the problems before they become emergencies. You'll be the person who prevents the fire, not the person who runs into it. And when prevention fails, then you'll have already shown everyone else how to get out. Sharon pulled up another video on the tablet. Watch this. The video showed the lobby of the research tower. Timestamp 9:47 a.m. Firefighters were bringing people out. Employees, researchers, security staff. All alive. All safe. The camera angle shifted to show the evacuation routes. Every stairwell. Every exit. All functioning exactly as designed. 43 people were in that building when the fire started, Sharon said. 42 of them evacuated safely using the standard protocols. The building security system worked perfectly for them. It contained the fire. It protected the exits. It did exactly what it was designed to do. And the 43rd person was me. I was in the worst possible place at the worst possible time. And you saved me anyway. She closed the tablet. That's the job, Mr. Harris. We build systems that save the 42. You make sure we don't forget about the 43rd. Daniel looked at her. Really looked. The bruise on her forehead was turning purple. Her hands had small burns from the equipment in the lab. She'd nearly died this morning. But she was here, recruiting him, planning the next defense. She was a protector too, just a different kind. What's the salary? He asked. Sharon named a number. Daniel's poker face almost failed. It was 3 times what the consultant position paid. It was more money than he'd made in his entire military career. That's for the VP role, Sharon said, plus benefits. Full medical, dental, college fund for Chloe, and housing assistance if you need to relocate. I don't want to relocate. Chloe's school is 10 minutes from our main campus. I checked. You wouldn't need to move, but the offer stands if circumstances change. Sharon stood and extended her hand. So what do you say, Mr. Harris? Will you teach us how to protect the 43rd person? Daniel stood and shook her hand. Her grip was firm despite the burns. Call me Daniel. And yes. Good. Your first assignment starts Monday. We're testing the security at our Atlanta data center. $50 million worth of digital assets. Physical security rated as impenetrable. I want you to break in. What's the scenario? Hostile foreign intelligence attempting to access classified research data. They have unlimited resources and detailed floor plans. Your job is to prove that no matter how good our security is, a smart person can still find a way in. And when I do, you'll show us how to fix it. Then we'll test again. And again, until it actually is impenetrable, or as close as we can get. Daniel nodded. This he could do. This was problem solving. This was using his brain instead of his body as a battering ram. This was the job he'd been looking for. One more thing, Sharon said. The investigation into the sabotage. I want you involved. Not leading it. We have forensics teams for that. But consulting. Looking at the evidence with fresh eyes. Finding the details that everyone else misses. You think I'll see something? I think you see everything. That's why you're dangerous. That's why I want you on my side. She walked him to the door. In the hallway. The gray-suited man from earlier was waiting. Sharon nodded to him. Marcus will handle your onboarding paperwork. HR, security clearances, all the administrative details. You'll need to fill out a lot of forms. Fair warning. Marcus looked at Daniel and smiled slightly. Welcome to Vanguard, Mr. Harris. Or should I say, welcome to the team that just made our entire security division look incompetent. Not incompetent, Daniel said. Just human. Humans make mistakes. That's why you need someone to find them. Sharon laughed. I think you're going to fit in fine here. Daniel followed Marcus down the hallway. Behind him, he heard Sharon's phone ring. Her voice shifted to business mode immediately. Yes, I saw the forensics report. Send me the full analysis and get the fire marshal's office on the line. I want to know exactly what failed and why. Daniel looked at his phone. 11:15 a.m. He needed to call Chloe's school again. Let them know he'd be late picking her up. Let them know everything was okay. Better than okay. He had a job. A real job. The kind that would let him be the father Chloe needed. Marcus led him to an office 3 floors up. Small but professional. Desk, computer, windows overlooking the city. This is your space for now. Once you're settled, we'll get you set up with a proper lab, equipment, testing facilities, whatever you need. I don't need much. You say that now. Wait until you see the toys we have. Marcus pulled out a folder. Here's the preliminary paperwork. Non-disclosure agreements, security clearances, background check authorization. Standard stuff. Take your time. I'll be back in an hour to collect it. Marcus left. Daniel sat at the desk and looked at the forms. Pages and pages of legal language. He skimmed through them. Nothing unusual. Just the standard agreements about not sharing proprietary information, not working for competitors, not using company resources for personal gain. He signed where indicated. Then he pulled out his phone and called Chloe's school. Hi, it's Daniel Harris again. I'm going to be about an hour late for pickup. Is that okay? Of course, Mr. Harris. Chloe can wait in the library. She'll be fine. Can you tell her? Daniel paused. What could he tell her? That he'd climbed down a burning building? That he'd saved someone's life? That he'd gotten the job? All of it was true. None of it was what an 8-year-old needed to hear. Tell her I got the job, and I'll see her soon. I'll tell her, congratulations, Mr. Harris. Daniel hung up and looked out the window. The research tower was visible from here. The smoke was almost gone. The fire was out. The building was damaged but standing. They'd rebuild it, make it stronger, fix the flaws that had let the sabotage succeed. That was the job now. Finding flaws, fixing them, making sure the next person who needed help could be reached. Daniel's hands were still shaking slightly. The blisters were painful. His shoulder ached. But for the first time in 3 years, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Daniel picked up Chloe from school at 12:30. She was waiting in the library, reading a book about wolves. When she saw him, she jumped up and ran over. Dad, you got the job. I got the job. What kind of job? What will you do? Daniel knelt down so they were eye level. I'm going to help keep buildings safe. Find problems before they hurt people. Like a superhero? Like a detective. I'll look for clues that show where buildings aren't safe. Then I'll help fix them. Chloe thought about this. Will you have to go far away? Sometimes, but not for long. And never without telling you first. Will it be dangerous? Daniel paused. The honest answer was yes. Testing security systems meant deliberately trying to breach them. That carried risks. But those risks were controlled. Planned. Nothing like running into burning buildings. Nothing like the missions that had given him nightmares for years. It'll be safer than my old job, he said. I promise. Chloe hugged him. Good. I like it when you're safe. They drove home. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms in a complex that had seen better decades. But it was theirs. Chloe went to her room to change out of her school uniform. Daniel went to the bathroom and finally dealt with his hands. The blisters were bad. He ran them under cool water and applied antibiotic ointment. Bandages next. His shoulder would need ice. Maybe a doctor's visit if it didn't improve in a few days. But he'd survive worse. His phone buzzed. A text from Sharon. Forensics found something. Can you come to the research tower tomorrow at 9 a.m.? Bring your security badge. Marcus will have it ready by end of day. Daniel replied, I'll be there. Another text. And Daniel, thank you for this morning. I owe you my life. He stared at the message for a moment, then typed, "You gave me a future. We're even." Chloe called from her room. "Dad, can we have pizza for dinner?" "Sure. Pepperoni? And mushrooms." Daniel smiled. Pizza with mushrooms. A night at home with his daughter. A job that would let him be present instead of haunted. This was what he'd been fighting for. This was the life he'd wanted to give her. He ordered the pizza and sat on the couch. Chloe came out and sat next to him, still holding her wolf book. She opened it and started reading aloud. Daniel listened, his bandaged hands resting on his knees, his damaged shoulder against the cushions. Later that night, after Chloe was asleep, Daniel sat at the kitchen table with his laptop. He pulled up everything he could find about Vanguard Global. The company was 30 years old, founded by Sharon's father. They specialize in high-end security for corporations and governments. Physical security, digital security, personnel security. They had contracts with defense contractors, tech companies, financial institutions. They also had enemies. Daniel found news articles about lawsuits, competitor complaints. One article from 2 years ago about a data breach at a client site that Vanguard had been protecting. The breach had cost the client millions. They'd sued. Vanguard had settled. He found Sharon's biography. MIT graduate, engineering degree, MBA from Harvard. She joined the company 15 years ago as a junior analyst, worked her way up, became CEO 5 years ago when her father retired. The articles called her brilliant, demanding, uncompromising about security. She'd nearly died this morning because someone had sabotaged her own security system. That took planning, inside knowledge, access. Whoever did it knew Vanguard's protocols intimately. Daniel made notes, questions to ask tomorrow, details to check. He was already thinking like a red team leader, already looking for the flaws. His phone buzzed again. "Marcus, your badge is ready. I'll drop it off tonight. If you're still up, need to brief you on tomorrow anyway." Daniel texted his address. 20 minutes later, Marcus knocked on the door. Daniel let him in quietly, mindful of Chloe sleeping. Marcus handed him a badge on a lanyard, black plastic with Daniel's photo, when had to take his photo, and his name, VP, Red Team Division. Below that, a string of numbers and a magnetic strip. "This gets you into every Vanguard facility in North America," Marcus said. "Most facilities in Europe and Asia too. Full access. It also marks you as authorized to test security systems, which means when you break into places, security won't arrest you. Probably will send advance notice to the facilities you're testing. But if you go off script, all bets are off. Don't get shot. I'll try not to." Marcus pulled out another folder. Tomorrow's briefing. Forensics team found evidence of tampering in the suppression system. Someone modified the timing circuits, made them delay by exactly 30 seconds. That 30 seconds was the difference between a controlled burn and an explosion that nearly killed Sharon. Who had access to those circuits? That's what we need to figure out. The building has strict access logs. Only 12 people had been in that lab in the past month. We're investigating all of them, but we're also looking at the possibility of remote tampering, someone hacking into the system from outside. Daniel flipped through the folder. Photos of the damaged equipment, technical diagrams, access logs. One name appeared multiple times. James Keller, systems engineer. He'd been in the lab 6 times in the past 2 weeks. Keller? Daniel asked. Sharon's ex-husband. They divorced 3 years ago. He still works for Vanguard. He's also one of our best engineers. And yes, we're looking at him closely. Motive? Bitter divorce. She got the company. He got alimony. He's been vocal about thinking she's not qualified to run Vanguard. Says she's too aggressive, takes too many risks, prioritizes growth over safety. Marcus paused. Thing is, some people agree with him. Daniel studied Keller's photo. Mid-40s. Sharp eyes. Mechanical engineering background. 20 years with the company. He looked like someone who knew systems inside and out. Is he dangerous? We don't know. That's part of what you'll be figuring out. Sharon wants you to look at the evidence independently. See if you spot anything the forensics team missed. I'm not a forensics expert. No, but you're an expert at seeing what other people overlook. That's the skill we need. Marcus stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. After Marcus left, Daniel sat with a folder for another hour. He studied the photos. The timing circuits that had been tampered with were sophisticated. This wasn't amateur work. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. He thought about Sharon's face in the burning lab. Unconscious. Vulnerable. Someone had wanted her in that building when it exploded. Someone had calculated the risk and decided she was worth killing. Daniel had spent 10 years protecting people from external threats. Insurgents. Terrorists. Natural disasters. He'd never dealt with an internal threat. Someone who worked alongside the victim. Someone who understood the systems intimately enough to weaponize them. This was a different kind of war, but war nonetheless. He closed the folder and went to check on Chloe. She was asleep, her wolf book on the nightstand. Daniel adjusted her blanket and kissed her forehead. She murmured something in her sleep, but didn't wake. This was why he'd taken the job. Not for the salary, not for the challenge. For this, for the ability to come home every night and tuck his daughter into bed. For the chance to be present in her life instead of haunted by the lives he'd saved and the ones he couldn't. Tomorrow he'd start hunting for whoever had tried to kill Sharon. He'd find them, and he'd make sure they couldn't hurt anyone else. But tonight, he was just a father, watching his daughter sleep. Grateful for one more day of being exactly what she needed, Daniel went to his own room and lay down. His shoulder throbbed. His hands ached. But his mind was already working, already analyzing, already planning. The red team started Monday, but the real work started tomorrow. Finding the saboteur, understanding the threat, protecting the people who needed protecting. It was what he did, what he'd always done. The only difference now was that he was doing it with purpose, with support, with the knowledge that when the day ended, he'd come home to Chloe. Daniel closed his eyes. For the first time in 3 years, he didn't dread the morning. He welcomed it. There was work to do, people to protect, flaws to find before they became disasters. He was the architect of safety now, the person who made sure the 43rd person could be saved. And he was exactly where he needed to be. Daniel's journey teaches us that true strength isn't just about physical courage or the ability to run into burning buildings. It's about recognizing when to change direction. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is acknowledge that the way we've always solved problems might not be the healthiest path forward. Daniel spent 10 years saving lives through direct action, but it took nearly losing himself to realize his greatest value wasn't his willingness to sacrifice his body, but his ability to think strategically and prevent disasters before they happen. Real protection isn't always about being a hero in the moment of crisis. Sometimes it's about being an architect who ensures the crisis never occurs. Whether in our careers, our relationships, or our personal growth, we must learn that changing our approach doesn't mean abandoning our purpose. It means evolving how we serve that purpose in a way that's sustainable for ourselves and those who depend on us. So here's the real question. Did you subscribe yet? Thousands of people will listen to this story and won't subscribe. Please don't be that person. Kindly support what I do here by subscribing. And then drop in the comment section if you like part 2 of Daniel and Sharon's story. What happens when Daniel investigates the sabotage at the research tower? Will James Keller prove to be the villain? Or is there a deeper conspiracy at play? How will Daniel balance his new red team role with being the father Chloe needs? And what dangers await when he starts testing Vanguard's impenetrable facilities around the world? Let me know if you want to hear more.